Okay. Thank you, Jarno, and thank you all for coming. I'm very glad to see so many people being interested in China again. The interest in China is rising, I've noticed, and it's really good to be here again, especially since I was here 2.5 years ago. Let's see. So 2.5 years ago, and people that have been to China, they know that in 2.5 years, everything changes in China. So what I've been telling you 2.5 years ago, it's completely different now. But I quickly want to sort of summarize what I was talking about 2.5 years ago, and that's, I was talking about WeChat. So who was here when I was talking about WeChat? Some people here. So you might remember this slide where I've shown, this is like a Western telephone, and Western telephone is chock full of different apps, and all of these little apps do one thing very well. But if you look at this phone, you could do everything on that telephone in China with WeChat, with one app. I'm not going to repeat myself, but if you want to see this story, it's available in the video archive of SMC050. It also doesn't mean that the Chinese people only use one app. They use lots of apps, but they are very used to having lots of functionality within one small little program. In this case, that's WeChat. This has resulted in China in an enormous popularity over the years, and they just crossed the 1 billion user landmark at the beginning of this year. Now, I have to say that there's a couple of there's actually more users than there are smartphones in China, which is explained by companies that have also got an account, and some people outside of China that are also using WeChat. Most of them will be Chinese people or people that are doing business with China. But in China, it's omnipresent. If people have a smartphone, 99% sure that they are also using WeChat. So I've been talking about WeChat, but there's another very interesting app, and that's called Alipay. And the thing is that these two apps, Alipay and WeChat, they have facilitated mobile payment in China. And if I say that the Chinese world has completely changed within the last 2.5 years, that is really true, because it used to be a society where everybody paid with cash, and now everybody is paying with mobile phones. Mobile payment, and I'll show you how that works. So these two apps are quite comparable, and you'll see that if Tencent, the company behind WeChat, comes up with a new functionality, within a couple of weeks it will also be available in Alipay, and the other way around as well. So there's complete copycatting taking place in China as well. If you look at the mobile payment market, around the time that WeChat came with their WeChat wallet, with their digital mobile payment wallet, the market has really exploded. Alipay was already invented in 2004. It used to be more like an online payment app, an online payment platform. But they also came at the start of this decennium with their mobile payment app. And they both have basically created the market for online payment or mobile payment. So if you nowadays go to a supermarket in China, you simply hand over your telephone and they scan the barcode on your telephone, which you create with Alipay or WeChat, and you have made your payment. But even in the smallest little shops, like a small noodle shop, you go and eat in a small noodle shop. This is one that I found outside a bus station in a small town, and there will be a QR code printed and pasted on the wall. And you simply scan that QR code to make a payment to the owner of the noodle shop, because it will transfer the money from your WeChat account or your Alipay account to his account. And if you go to a temple, it's not even necessary to bring any cash money anymore, because on the altar or on the shrine, the Buddhist shrine, there will be a QR code which you can scan to make a donation to that temple. So a couple of examples of how this has changed. Now, especially in the cities, and these are figures from 2017, especially in the cities, this has resulted in currently more than 90% of the people prefer to pay by mobile payment. And a lot of people don't really carry any cash on them anymore. It's different in the countryside. This is a beautiful village that I visited last year in August called Demon. And only in those kinds of places, only about 70% of the people are using mobile payment. Why? Because the people that live in these villages are mostly older people, and their grandchildren, because the children have actually moved to the big cities to work there. And as you can imagine, those small kids and grandparents, they are a lot less tech savvy, so they will be using mobile payment less often. But if you go out on the street nowadays, you can really see the extent to which mobile payment has occurred in China. So this lady, this is a lady that I used to normally go to in the morning to get a jianbing. This is a jianbing. It's my favorite Chinese breakfast. It's like a pancake with all kinds of potato and spicy sauce in it. And you used to pay a couple of years ago by just throwing some cash into this little bucket here. But nowadays, you can simply scan the QR code on her telephone that she's got hooked up to a power bank and pay for that pancake, for that jianbing. The same thing happens with this guy that I met in April, and he's selling sweet potatoes, roasted sweet potatoes on the street. And this guy as well, you don't need any cash for him. You just scan the Alipay or the WeChat QR code. Now, all of this has resulted into a situation where very few people, especially in the bigger cities, carry any cash on them anymore. They might have like a 100 renminbi banknote in their wallet, which they never touch, but they rarely use cash, and it means that they rarely have like small coins and small change with them. So what does that mean in China when you're a beggar? So nobody can give you his small change anymore. So as a beggar, you also need to have your own QR code. And for those people that still have cash on them, they can still put it in that little tin there. But even beggars nowadays have their own QR code. Now, these two companies, Alipay and WeChat, they have been fighting for the market for quite some time. When WeChat was introduced, you see that they very quickly took away market share from Alipay that you have up here. And in the last year or so, it's been quite stable, with WeChat having about 40% market share and Alipay having about 50 to 55% market share. Another thing that is happening nowadays is that, of course, you need to use those apps at different places. So you use them at supermarkets and you use them out in the street, as I've shown you. But there are certain retail chains nowadays that are starting to choose sites. So in this example, for instance, we see that Walmart, which is also active in China, they've decided to stop allowing payment by Alipay, and they only allow payment by WeChat. Hema, which is a store which I'll tell you about later, only allows payment by Alipay. So, and you might think, that's a bit strange. Why would you make it difficult for customers? Why wouldn't you simply allow them to pay by whichever mobile payment method that they prefer? You have to look a bit deeper into this and look at the market structure. So Alipay, as you might have guessed from the name, is a product that is a product by Ant Financial, and Ant Financial is a spin-off of Alibaba Group. So Alipay is very much affiliated to Alibaba Group. On the other side of the market, what you'll see is you have WeChat Pay. And WeChat Pay is a product by a company called Tencent. Tencent is also, with 21%, one of the major investors, one of the big owners in JD.com. Now, this has nothing to do with the sportswear company you see around Holland nowadays. This is Jingdong, and it's the second biggest e-commerce platform in China. But Walmart, with 12%, is also an investor in JD.com. So you can imagine that this triangle, this strategic triangle, prefers people to actually pay by WeChat Pay and not by Alipay. Now keep this in mind, because I'm going to come back to this in a moment. This dependence on supermarket chains for mobile payment. And also keep in mind that these companies are earning quite a lot of money because they get a fee for every mobile payment. And if 90% of the people in the cities are using mobile payment, there's a lot of money going around. in those companies. Another thing that's been happening in the last couple of years, if you look back to the year 2005, China, the Chinese e-commerce market was only 0.4% of the total e-commerce market in the world, the total global e-commerce market. 11 years later, they cover 42.4% of the total global e-commerce market. Now, I can tell you that about 40% of people in China don't even have internet yet, and maybe 2/3 of all of the people in China are not buying online yet. So this is not the end of the growth of e-commerce in China. This also explains why Alibaba had such a huge IPO a few years ago in 2014. But this will eventually even out. This will eventually sort of stabilize, and the market will be saturated in China. This also will happen to this picture. What we've seen in China is that in 2011, the online market was about 4% of the total retail market. This has grown to about 20%. It depends a bit on which research you use, but roughly 20% of the market of everything that's bought in China is bought online. 80% is bought offline. Now, this will also continue to grow, but analysts have said that it will probably stabilize around 30% in the year 2030. So this means that eventually also this development will stagnate. Now, take those mobile payments, take like the diminishing, the slowing growth of e-commerce, and take the stabilization, the stagnation of the growth of market share in the total retail market, and something is now happening in China that we've never really have seen anywhere else before in the world, and it's the development of cross-channel partnerships. Now, cross-channel partnerships, what do I mean? If you look at this next picture, I'm not going through all of the different cells in this one, but suffice it to say that these are all supermarket chains and shopping malls that Alibaba has invested in, and not a little bit of money. In some cases, they've become a major majority shareholder in the company, and sometimes they've just outright bought up a complete retail chain. The same thing is happening on the other side with Tencent and JD. Now remember that that's the other strategic alliance that you'll see in China. These market shares, or these shares are a bit lower than you will see with Alibaba, and JD is mostly strategic partnerships. But what is happening is that the e-commerce companies are basically buying up the offline world. Now, just think about that for a moment. We all know that Ahold, Albert Heijn Ahold in the Netherlands, has invested in bol.com. But just imagine if it would be the other way around. Or if Amazon would buy up Walmart or Target or one of the big supermarket chains in the United States. That's what's happening in China. The e-commerce companies are basically taking over the whole retail market. And you can see it in this picture. These are the top 10 retailers in China and the parties that they're affiliated to. So most of them, 8 out of 10, have already been linked to one of these e-commerce companies. And if you look at the top 25 or the top 20, there's many more that are affiliated to either Tencent and JD or to Alibaba. Now, what are they going to do when they create this partnership? I don't really like a lot of text slides, but I'm going to use 1 or 2 in this presentation. So, let's see. So, one thing they'll do is they'll make it possible offline to order products online. They'll also share costs in research and development in the retail technology industry. They will integrate their CRM systems so they can combine all of the customer data they have on their customers. They will improve the assortment. This is quite an interesting one because Alibaba has a lot of SKU, like product level information on what their customers are buying. What they can now do is they can determine in which areas in a city these products are very popular. And they can then tell the retailers, the offline retailers that they're affiliated to put these products on their shelves. And they'll find that these products sell very well because it's based on data. So they will optimize the assortment of these shops. Payment methods, well, we've seen that. So they will implement Alipay or WeChat Pay or choose one of those sites. They will cooperate in logistical platforms, and this is like the only one that we really know in the Netherlands, where you can use a retail store, a physical store, as a drop-off point for orders. And an important one is they will enable these retailers to use the ecosystems of Alipay and WeChat Pay to communicate with their different customers. Now, like I said, 80% of all sales is taking place offline. And the market in China, the retail market, is really fragmented. So what we see is that some of it takes place in these big retail chains, in the big supermarket chains. But there's also 6 million convenience stores, or what we call mom and pop stores. In this case, it's a dad and son store. And they're a bit like unorganized, they're a bit messy. They normally have very nice people working there, and they're very friendly, but they're not extremely professional. So what Alibaba is doing is they are taking these chains and they give them a complete makeover. So in this case, they are upgrading it to a Tmall store. This is a logo of Tmall, and Tmall is one of Alibaba's big e-commerce platforms. And they, like I said, they give the shop a completely new design. More important than just this branding is the fact that they also give these shops software. And that software does two things. One thing, it channels all of the purchasing of these shops to Alibaba platforms, Alibaba wholesale platforms. So instead of buying at different suppliers, everything is now bought with Alibaba. And more important, these small shops are now also supplying customer data on SKU level, on product level, data that Alibaba has never had before, which they are now getting from the retail stores and from these small convenience stores. So Alibaba is building up their customer knowledge and getting more coverage of data that also happens offline. And this is what we call new retail. So new retail is, if you have a definition, it's the seamless merger of online and offline retail. And it's really different from what we are doing, what we call like multi-channel or omni-channel, because what you see happening here in the West is Coolblue might open a couple of shops and thereby be multi-channel. What you also see is that some offline retailers have made their own web shop and thereby become multi-channel. But this is taking things to a completely new level. This is where on and offline parties are starting to merge and cooperate. Now, the term new retail was first coined by Alibaba in 2016. But they're not the only one doing this, because Tencent is doing it, they call it Smart Plus Retail. JD.com is doing it, they call it Unbounded Retail. And some consultants in China call it OMO, online meets offline. So what's in a name? Alibaba has said that in the future, where they know that e-commerce growth will stagnate and it will be more difficult to gain market share in the retail market as an e-commerce company alone, that their future growth will come from helping the traditional offline retail to basically grow towards new retail. Now, I've been talking about this a lot, and the best thing to let you experience this is to actually show you what this is like. So I've got a couple of videos that I'm going to show you that give you a better understanding. The first one I'm going to show you is for an initiative called a Bingobox. And a Bingobox is an unmanned store. There's nobody inside. It's the size of a shipping container. And you basically operate this whole store with your mobile phone. So let's have a look. The first time you scan this QR code, you actually register with the WeChat account of this Bingobox. You need to type in your name and your telephone number, and then you get sent a code by an SMS message, by a text message. And you enter that code, and from there on you're registered to use these bingo boxes. The second thing you do is to go in, you scan the QR code. So you go into your WeChat account, discover menu, and you scan the QR code. Now once you scan the QR code, which I'll show you, so when you scan the QR code, you are allowed into the store. Now in the store, it's nice and cool in here. And what you'll find is several fridges. This one is selling all kinds of different ice cream. You have different types of snacks here. If you feel the urge, you can buy some condoms, or maybe even some sex toys, which is an interesting thing to find in this store. But as you walk around, like as you can see, it's not very big, but you can even buy umbrellas. There's different types of snacks that you'll find here, and there's all kinds of drinks that you have here. So, just taking a Magnum from the fridge, and then I go to this machine, and this machine instructs me to first scan the item. So there's of course a barcode on it, and I hold it under the scanner, and then I put it on the side. And it invites me to pay by either Weixin, there's WeChat, or Alipay. So what I do, I choose WeChat because I normally use WeChat. So what I'll do now is I'll show you what happens when I scan the code. So it takes a while. So and then it says that the door will open, and there's a countdown to get out. So I go out of the store, I close the door, and this door will lock again. So if I want to get in, I would need to scan this QR code again to get some more information or some more products. So this is the bingo box, as you can find them in China. Now, the first time I tried this, I wasn't quick enough, and I got locked into the store because I couldn't open the door on time. The easiest thing to do is just buy another product, which in itself is quite an interesting marketing strategy. So just give people very, very little time to actually leave the damn store. So there's other companies that are basically doing the same thing nowadays. On the left, you'll see Alibaba Future Mart, and I'll have a small video about that later on. But also JD is having these test runs with stores that are called JDX. Now, for payment, as you've seen, there are different ways that you can pay for these unmanned stores. The one that I've just shown you is based on self-scanning. So you identify yourself when you go into the store, and just like we do with Albert Heijn to go, we basically pay for our own stuff. And there's also cameras and other ways that they check that you actually have paid for these items. Another one, which you can find on our website, a video of Bio by Suning, uses facial recognition. So you identify yourself by facial recognition before you go into the store. And then when you walk out, you go through this little aisle, and it scans the RFID tags on the products. And it again scans your face and then deducts the money automatically from your bank account. And the one that you might be a bit more familiar with is Amazon Go. And Amazon Go is based on you identify yourself when you come into the store, and then you just walk out. And the actual measuring of what products you have bought is done by all of the cameras that are hidden in the ceiling, or they're not even really hidden. The big difference is, I think that, as far as I know, Amazon Go only has one store so far. And it's based on very high-tech functionality. Now, this might be medium tech, but it works quite well, and it enables China to roll this out much quicker. So if there's only one Amazon Go store, there are tens or maybe by now even hundreds of unmanned stores that you can find in China. So it's a different approach, but it works. The second example I want to give to you is Hema. Now, this is a concept store by Alibaba called Hema. It's not Hema. It has nothing to do with the Dutch store of Hema. So it's Hema. And I'll show you another video also to give you an idea what it looks like and how it works. Let's see. Okay. So Hema, you see it more and more in the big cities. The hippo is their logo, and you normally find it in the basements of shopping malls. You walk into this store, and you'll find a lot of different products, a lot of foreign products, a lot of packaged products, but they're most famous for their fresh seafood products. Now you can walk into the store and just select whatever you want to buy and take one of those fishing nets and take it out, take it to the cashier and pay for it. As a matter of fact, you can pay for it by self-scanning. But you can also do something else, which is quite remarkable. Because if you walk up to this little fellow and say, well, that's a tasty-looking fellow, I'll have a piece of him. Some products are not the cooking, but there are products can be cooking in the shop, which is Chinglish for they can prepare it for you in one of those kitchens. So they first clean it, and then they'll hand it over to one of those restaurants where they prepare the food that you've just selected. And you can sit down in the restaurant and consume it there. So, a restaurant and a shopping mall. In the ceiling, you see these fishing nets, which have nothing to do with the seafood, but they're to prevent these bags from dropping on your head. And these bags are put into this conveyor belt system by the staff of Hema. And you might think there's an awful lot of people stocking the shelves, but they are actually not shelf stockers. They are order pickers. What they do is they collect the orders from people that are shopping online with Hema. So they run around the stores and they put it in these little bags. They scan things, they put it in the bags, and they put it into this conveyor belt system, which you'll see running through the whole store. And that's what these nets are for, because you probably wouldn't want one of those bags hitting you. It goes next door, and next door there's a whole army of kuaidi, of couriers, waiting for this to arrive so they can deliver it to the customer within 30 minutes. So, they probably don't all look like these, but this is how they show it to you. People use an app to buy from home, to buy online, but you can also use this app in the store. Because, as Hohi might tell you later on, there's a big distrust in the safety of products in China. So if you are in the store, you can scan the barcode on the product, and you go to a landing page in the app that has a lot of information. You can even send it by social media to, in this case, my wife. Honey, are these the eggs you want tonight? And it has much, much more information to create that trust. It's got product reviews, it's got information on having home delivery of this product. It will give you a lot of information about when these eggs come into the store, where they come from. So you'll see a picture of the farm where the chickens are that lay these eggs. Certificates of origin. It will have recipes, what you can make with these products, and it will also have a lot of information about similar products if this is not exactly the one that you are looking for. And this is the essence of Hema, because it's really not just a supermarket. It's really not just a restaurant in a supermarket. It's a concept to create trust with the Chinese consumers that have a very high distrust in products because of all of the food safety scandals that have been happening in China over the years. So if you nowadays go to the big cities in China, you'll find that, let's see, you'll find that the first Hema store was opened in 2015, but there are now already 59 Hema stores around 13 different cities. And what Alibaba is trying to do with these stores, they try to get the percentage of online orders up to 80 to 90%, because they found that when a store reaches that level, it's highly profitable. So the first store that they've made that became profitable when they hit the 70% of online orders. So what they want people to do is they don't really want you to come into that store all the time. They want you to come in, try it out, have some fresh seafood prepared, have trust in these products. Maybe you come back a second time, but the third time you'll just sit at home and order from home, and you'll have it delivered to you, instead of the hassle of having to go back to the store. Now, if you look at the city of Shanghai, and you look at these dots, they are all Hema stores. And if you take into account that each store has a service radius of about 5 kilometers, where they deliver within half an hour, you see what Alibaba is doing. They are basically covering all of the residential areas with these Hema stores, and they are planning to open hundreds of them across China. Now, a successful concept like this is very quickly copied in China as well. So you'll find Tencent and JD are cooperating with Yonghui, and they basically have the same concept as Hema now implemented at the Yonghui stores. JD made a fresh supermarket brand called 7 Fresh, which is an exact copy of Hema. And even another Alibaba invested company, Rizzo, is also having the possibility to select products and eat them in the store where they are prepared for you. I've been to this one in Shanghai. There's not many people there because they probably all go to the Hema one. More interesting even, now remember that I showed you at the start that Alibaba is investing in all of these different big retail chains in China. They are now rolling out the Hema concept to those same stores. So in this case, you'll find in RT Mart, you'll find the Tmall logos, but more interesting, you'll also see the conveyor belt system that we've seen before here, now also present in that store. So they are rolling out this successful concept to other stores within China. Now, if you sum up new retail, as Alibaba calls it, there's certain building blocks. It's all built around technology, all built around AI, all built around big data. And one of the building blocks is enabling you to order offline or online if you're in an offline location, so connecting on and offline. So that might mean that you buy in the store, but you actually have it delivered, so you don't have to carry that around into the subway system, for instance. But it could also mean that you have a lot of products in the long tail, which you can see on the screen in the store, and order it there and have it delivered again to your home. There's optimization of the logistical chain. Well, I've given the example of Alibaba predicting which products might be very popular in a certain area. There's retailtainment, adding a lot of entertainment to old-fashioned retail, making shopping more fun again. And there's these intelligent self-service concepts like unmanned stores and a lot of facial recognition that China is testing with at the moment. Now, to see all of this, I could talk about this for the whole evening. I won't. But what I've done is to show you some of the examples of this technology. I've made a 4-minute compilation of some different promo movies so you can get an idea of what is going on in the new retail space in China. By the way, some of these might be a bit gimmicky. I leave it for you, for yourself to decide which are like really convenient and maybe more of a PR stunt. Is this the future of retail in the Netherlands? I don't know, but it definitely is in China. As a matter of fact, Jack Ma has said in 2016, when he introduced new retail, he said, in the future, there's not going to be any more online and offline. There's just going to be new retail, a complete integration of the two channels. Now, if you want to know more about this, leave your name card or just a piece of paper with your email address on it in the little Chinese box over there. I'm currently working on a new product, a new service, where I take people to China to actually show you all of these things that are going on there. And my first victim will be Jarno himself. So if he actually comes back, you might want to try the same thing. I also send you 4 ebooks. I'll send you more in-depth articles about new retail, more videos, and I'll keep you up to date about everything that's going on in China. Thank you for your attention.